Welcome back to another week of Hello Ladies, Feminism and Pro Wrestling. I am one of your hosts, Sabrina Hannon.
Megan Manley.
And a very happy WrestleMania season, everyone. We just saw WrestleMania last night. It'll be a few nights ago for everyone by the time this is up, but that's what we're going to be talking about. This is a pure WWE, pure WrestleMania. We're just sticking to that. The 2 nights, it's a lot of content, so we're not doing anything else.
A lot of stuff happened.
A lot of stuff, yeah.
A lot of surprises.
Yes. And of course, we're not going to deviate from our segment of weird wrestling shit. So I have this, which I will open. So this, I only own one wrestling belt. I did not purchase this for myself. It was purchased for me. I did not ask for it either, but I have it. That is the way a lot of my wrestling stuff goes. I didn't purchase this, but I have it now. And I keep it in this little case because I don't want to have to clean it all the time.
Oh, nice.
So this is the China specific belt, the Intercontinental. You can see her name. It's hard with the reflection.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, but it's lovely. It has Swarovski. I think I'm saying that right. Crystals in it. Like it's a
good.
lovely thing.
It looks heavy. Is it heavy?
Is, yeah. Nam had asked me like, oh, well, why don't you like sit with this? Why don't you hold this while we watch pay-per-views? I was like, I could do that, or I could be a normal person. These are
like do that, or I could be comfortable.
Yeah, because especially like I was in a car accident, and I have years ago now, but I hurt my neck into my shoulder, so having something extra around it for an extended period of time, not what I'm looking for. But at some point, I guess they did sell a display case for these, but I do not have it at some point. Well, and on the inside here is also her logo all throughout the back.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so it's quite nifty. I'm just gonna put this over there to put this away later because we don't need to listen to me or watch me fumble with that for the next who knows how long. Yes, it's kind of one of those things where like when people find out that you like something and then they buy you only that thing. Yes.
Yeah, that was me and Harry Potter for still, like, I was gonna say for a long time, but still, like,
yep.
My father, who every year for Christmas, bless him, he still gets me something Harry Potter related.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my cousin does a lot of Harry Potter and unicorns for me, so I understand. But
yeah. Avatar for Last Airbender for my brothers, that's their thing for me. Like, people know you like something and they just grab onto it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Surprisingly enough, I don't ever get any wrestling presents, but I don't really talk about wrestling with people that like aren't already fans.
All right, I thought you were just gonna be like, I don't really talk about wrestling. It's like I have video evidence that says otherwise.
Never talk about wrestling. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. No, if like someone isn't already a fan of it, I'm not like, oh, hey, let's talk about like Kenny Omega for 5 hours. Like,
I will say I have brought up wrestling into random conversation when people are dumb enough to venture too close to it. What is his name? Jungle Boy. I brought him up this year at a Christmas party because someone was talking about how much they love Luke Perry. And I was like, have you ever seen his son Jungle Boy? That's his mini-me. And they were like, what? And I started talking and someone knew enough. They looked at me and they're like, is that AEW? And I went, it is. this is all the encouragement I need. And that brought like 5 more minutes of conversation. And by that, I mean me talking at people.
I'll never forget how I was introduced to you when we were working at that same place together.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Brian, who was a supervisor on your end, was like, hey, I want you to meet Sabrina. She's a girl that likes wrestling too. It's like, oh, okay. And I think it was like by the bathrooms in the coffee place over there.
Oh, yeah.
Like brought you over to meet me. And I'm like, I'm, you know, like kind of shy and socially awkward. And just like, hey, yeah, another girl likes wrestling. I'm gonna go back to my desk now. Nice to meet you. And like ran away. I'm like, why? I mean, I'm glad he did, but I hate when he puts me on the spot like that. Like, I hate it.
Yeah. Little did you know, I would never let my claws out of you because I'm like a woman who likes wrestling. Ha ha.
Hey, you want to do a podcast? Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, I want to say that there are more. I feel like more women that I know are casual fans. And they're not. Although to be fair, I think you're one of the few other people I know who does listen to like some of the other stuff or is a quote smart mark, you know, all that fun stuff, or knows what the hell I'm saying when I say smart mark. So
on the Tony Khan payroll, you know.
Yeah. But yes. Yes, I'm very happy that Brian introduced us. No matter
another girl.
Here's another girl that likes wrestling.
Yeah, because I mean, same other, like when I grew up, like I've mentioned this before, how I grew up in a neighborhood that was primarily all boys, and I was like the only girl. There were a couple other girls in the neighborhood, but I wasn't really, like, I was close-ish to them, but I was more close to my boys. And like I remember they knew enough about it when we were younger. Like I think one still watches because she has kids, but like it wasn't ever like a hardcore thing. It was just like, oh, everybody else is watching, let's watch it. Like something social. So yeah, I think you're the only other like woman that I've met that is as hardcore about it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also always get and I'm sure you do too, like people are, if they find out that you're a wrestling fan, they're just like, really? Huh. And
Yeah.
it's just like I've just started saying when people start questioning about it, it's like I'm an onion. I have many layers.
Or they stereotype kind of and assume, and I don't mean this as a slight because I know you're a fan of him, but like assume that you're just like a Cena fan, like, oh, let's go Cena, and it's not much deeper than that. You just like, they assume that you just like watching like John Cena on TV because he's good looking, and it's like,
It
oh
helps.
no.
But...
I'm like, no, I like the heels and I watch more than WWE.
Also, John Cena's not really on that anymore.
No, now it's more Roman. They like assume that you only watch because Roman's pretty, but like,
yeah, I actually never had anyone assume to my face anyway that I was watching because of John Cena, which is funny because I am a John Cena fan. Behind me one of these days for my wrestling paraphernalia, you will see my autographed John Cena bobblehead or whatever the heck, pop figure. There we go. But yeah, and in college, my best friend actually got me a t-shirt that had John Cena on it doing his "You Can't See Me," that said "John Cena pin me."
Oh,
but
God.
It's clearly filthy. I still have it. I love it. I will never get rid of it. I've worn it so much, it's almost completely see-through at this point.
That's funny.
Yes, it
is.
Yeah,
I was never like, I never went for the pure white meat baby face. Like I was not a Hogan fan, which that's all. I mean, we've realized that he is not a baby face in any shape or form. As a human being, he's awful. But I mean, like when we were little, like Hogan was like the end all be all. I wasn't like, I was a huge Macho Man fan. That was my guy. And like, you know, Miss Elizabeth. And I was never really into Cena too much. Like I don't dislike him, but he wasn't my favorite. I remember for a while I would just be like, Brian, why is Cena still yelling at me? Because all of his promos, you know, he screams. I'm like, Cena's yelling at me again. Like Like, this man won't stop screaming. But I don't like that how people like assume just because you're a woman that you can't like a manly type thing, like a more traditionally geared towards men. And I hate that you have to be questioned on it too. Like, I even dealt with that with music because I was always more into like classic rock and like 90s grunge and rock. And if you're a woman or a girl that doesn't like all pop music and stuff that they like, oh, you like the Smashing Pumpkins? Well, name like their first five. Blah, blah,
Oh
blah.
yeah.
I hate that shit so much. Like, I hate that we have to deal with that. And it does cross over into wrestling too.
100%. There's a lot of gatekeeping that
Yep.
that goes on. And I feel like I think that's going to be very different for what is the next generation called? Alpha or something?
Not the Zoomers, the one after them.
Yeah, I think they're called Alpha or something like that. It was an A. But because we see so many little girls specifically who are so into wrestling because of, people like Becky Lynch, the four horsewomen, really, and then, Naomi and Alexa Bliss and Queen Zelina, I'm sure, as well. Like, there's Bianca Belair. There's so many different women now that really resonate with little girls, and you can see it represented in the audience.
Yeah, it wasn't like when we were growing up where basically for a while it seemed like all we had was like Chyna and Lita, and then like eventually Trish when she got better, because she wasn't great when she first was around.
No.
That's pretty much all we really. Luna, like,
Jacqueline, I would argue as well. Yeah. Holly Holly. But like, I feel like not that she came later. I mean, she didn't come around the same time, but a little bit later than she came after Trish had debuted, but not when Trish was really good yet. This one, right? Am I getting my Molly Holly?
Oh, okay.
Mighty Molly.
I missed you. Yeah, I think it was in that in between time.
Mm-hmm.
And even though we did have the kick-ass women to look up to, the company still did very questionable things with the women.
Questionable is a
Braun,
polite way of saying what they did.
they did shitty things. The bra and panties matches, and like the shit that Vince put Trish through, and like those segments, and it just, we had good women to look up to, but not their characters, what they were put through. Like, it wasn't great to be 13 and watching that stuff. And
yeah. And
it was just uncomfortable.
Yeah. And WrestleMania was a great example of how far they've come. It really was. And not just, it's 2 nights now, but to have more than, there are plenty of WrestleManias that have 0 women's matches. And if they are there, they're like 2 minutes long.
They used to be piss break matches.
Exactly. Yep. And this year, when a match needed to be cut from night 1, it wasn't one of the women's matches. And that always sucks when that happens. And really, so I think the reason why, because they had those crazy video packages that they were showing constantly. And I mentioned this to you, like, why am I seeing this package again? And you said, well, we're seeing a commercial. So that explains it a bit for why we kept seeing the same damn things. Like, things when we were on night 1, I was seeing previews for night 2, and it's like, I'm gonna be tuning in. Stop.
Yeah, night one we were at a friend's house. We weren't home, and the friend's house that we were at, they had like the premium Peacock that I guess you guys have. So yeah, night one we saw the packages too, and I was like, why did they play all of them that night too? When we were home, we don't pay for Peacock, we get it included with Comcast. It's just you get the like the $5 tier, like the cheapest one. So we have to still see commercials, and I was like, oh, okay, this is why all the video packages are happening for the people that don't have the lowest tier of Peacock, because they're not going to have people miss anything for commercials.
Yeah, or just stare at. Can you imagine they just make Mcafee dance the whole time?
I mean, I'd watch.
Yeah, I was gonna say, actually, now that I've said that, next year, Vince, dance, my little puppet, dance.
Oh, bless him. He had the night of his life last night, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So night one kicked off with the Usos versus Rick Boogs and Shinsuke Nakamura. Which I wasn't surprised that they started off that way. I mean, by all means, that looked like it was going to be a great match. Unfortunately, Rick Boogs did really get injured. And it looks like he's going to be out for about a year, is what they're saying.
He tore, what was it, some like a tendon right from his bone?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Something about how like his quads were too strong, and I was just like, oh yeah, maybe you should skip some leg days, my dude.
Yeah, when it happened, I didn't think he legitimately got hurt. I thought it was storyline.
Yeah, same.
But then when the match was over, I had the time here, it was 6:55 and it felt quick. When the match was over like that, we were like, okay, maybe he really did get hurt. And then later we heard that they had to change the whole end of the match. So I'm wondering if they were actually supposed to win the belts, but they had to call an audible.
That's what I think. I think they were meant to win.
Boogs is so over. Like, I can see that they probably were supposed to win them.
Yeah, and like this is awful for both for both Shinsuke and Rick Boogs. I don't know what they're gonna do with Shinsuke now, honestly. Like I'm concerned about that. Because they don't have the best history of taking care of Shinsuke recently. But then again, maybe. Okay, so this just came into my head. I would absolutely love to see him do something with Cody Rhodes. Love it. I would absolutely love that. So,
but I don't remember if they're wait, are they on the same show?
Yeah.
No, someone different.
Oh.
Wait.
Oh wait. Do we know if Cody's going to Raw or SmackDown?
We don't know. And Edge and AJ are Raw, aren't they? See what I was thinking, but yeah, Edge and AJ I think are on Raw. What I was hoping was, since Edge is apparently, it's rumored, is starting a stable, which I think we saw the beginnings of that last night. I thought it would be fun if you got AJ, Balor, and Nakamura to go up against whatever stable Edge is creating. Get the 3 New Japan guys against like 3 WWE guys or whatever. And that could have been fun, but they're on different shows. So there goes my idea.
You never know. I mean, they could do something like that where they make a stable and then like they could actually do something for Survivor Series.
That one time a year.
Yeah.
The one time both brands fight each other.
Yeah. But I mean, the Usos versus Rick Boogs and Shinsuke wasn't a bad match, but it very clear, like you can't fairly grade it because the ending was definitely changed and it was definitely cut short, which also, if that was cut short, what assholes ran over?
I mean, looking at the times, it looks like it was probably Cody and Seth.
Oh, I was gonna go with Logan Paul, but because it's Logan Paul.
That surprisingly wasn't that long.
I'm just comfortable blaming everything on Logan Paul.
I mean, that's also fair.
Yeah. But in between there, of course, we have Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin. I was not interested at all in that match, which sucks because Drew McIntyre is Drew McIntyre. I guess I didn't realize this, that no one had ever kicked out of the End of Days.
Yeah, never.
So, I mean, that's cool. I'll probably remember that. And we'll all remember him cutting the ropes. And I like, it's weird because Corbin's one of those people who's so good at making you hate him. For a long time, I thought I really hated him until he was off TV for a while. And then I was like, oh, I miss him. But I don't like him with Madcap Moss. I think, and it's not, Madcap Moss is like, has the credentials in the ring. Like, he's not a bad wrestler. Oh yeah, he took that one bump where I thought he was going to die and he was fine.
True.
Yeah, and I just don't think the gimmick he has is great with, and yeah, I'm just not feeling that.
Yeah, I didn't care. I still don't care. I hope this feud is over. Now, I do like Corbin. Brian and I actually have a joke in the house that we always we'll look at each other and we'll be like, we are a Baron Corbin household. We both enjoy him. Like you said, he's so good at making you hate him. Like, even when he was the lone wolf, I've liked him since NXT. Like, I know I'm probably in a large minority, but I like Corbin. I did not care about this feud. I didn't care at all. Nothing about it made me invested. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Madcap Moss either. Like, I thought he and Boogs were the same person for about 6 months. I didn't realize they were different people till Boogs cut his hair. Like, I mean, it was, I hope it's over. I just don't want to see. Drew needs to move on to Roman now or something. Like,
Yeah, Drew needs to do something else, as does Happy Corbin. And I just, yeah, and again, like, I think I could like Moss with a different gimmick, because he's not boring in the ring. I just don't care about what he's doing because I find him so goddamn annoying, and not in the way that where when Corbin would come out, I would want to just see Corbin get his ass kicked. And that's the mark of a true heel. But yeah, did not care at all. And then, so I want to, surprisingly, I think the Logan Paul and Miz versus the Mysterios was the match that like really started to kick off WrestleMania in like to a gear, like a higher gear.
I felt like that about the match after this. So I was gonna say, speaking of don't care, and I hate to say it about Rey Mysterio of all people, I didn't care about this match either. I didn't care about this build to this match. I didn't care about any of it. I feel the same way. I feel the same way about these two matches, about the Drew one and this Miz, and I just didn't care. Like, not one part of me was invested in either of these matches, and it made it hard for me to pay attention to both of them, if that makes sense. I was more playing with my friends at this point. Like,
so I want to say Dominic specifically did well in this match. Like, he caught my eye a lot, and I like that his gear was first of all, him and Ray coming out together where they like springboard out of the stage, which is something we haven't seen Ray do in a while. The two of them doing together just really was eye-catching, and something that was a nice throwback that I was like, yes, I'm here for this. And Dominic giving that gear shout out to Eddie, especially since he has his own mullet going on. I hate those goddamn things.
His real dad. He's trying to play. He's paying homage to his real father.
Oh yes. But I think this was a good way for Dominic to show off what he can do. I mean, Ray, obviously, Miz, Ray, and Dominic had to carry Logan Paul. Logan Paul screwed up a few times. I mean, he still, by all means, was not the worst. As much as I hate to say this, he was not the worst celebrity guest, person, whatever. He did get into, like, he just went to the wrong corner for a while, which isn't even a corner people stand in. He screwed up a couple of things. And even saying all that, I'm very sad to say that that's not the worst we've seen with celebrity guests. And then of course Miz turning on Logan Paul at the end.
His face turned.
Yes. Yeah. As soon as that happened, I had said to Nom, like, Miz gets the biggest baby face pop of the night.
Right.
Because everyone hates Logan Paul.
Good reason.
Yeah. And it's so bizarre because usually with wrestlers or in wrestling, you're booing someone, you know, they're a heel, it's a character, you don't hate the person. Like even if it's someone who maybe you don't like the wrestling skills, like you don't think they injure people or something, like you just don't want to see them, you're just like they need to go back down to developmental, whatever, you don't wish harm on that person. It's not the same with Logan Paul. Like Logan Paul himself is a shitty person. And dear Lord, I tuned into the first night's pre-show thinking that there would be a match because it was 2 hours long. And why would you have a 2-hour long pre-show? If not, I fell asleep I got a new dog and I fell asleep on him during the pre-show night one. And unfortunately, it wasn't when Jake Paul, I think is his name, was talking. It was
the other one.
Yeah, it was the most unintelligible thing. And you can bless the people around him, like Caleb Braxton was just trying to get something intelligible, not intelligent, intelligible out of that man. Yeah. Logan Paul's the smart one. Like I'm gonna say that now. Like he can at least handle a crowd, like it was bad. It was bad. That man should never have a microphone in his hand.
I did not see the pre-show because I had work and I rushed home from work and made the food that I was bringing to our WrestleMania party. And then we left. So we didn't get there until I think there was only maybe like a half hour left of the pre-show by the time we even got there. But then, we were saying hello and getting food out, blah, blah, blah. And I missed the whole pre-show the first night, which
you basically saw it throughout nights 1 and 2 anyway, because it was the video packages.
Yeah, it was nothing special. There was no matches, so
no,
didn't care.
Yeah.
No, this is where I think the pay-per-view really took a turn for the better.
It got stacked after this. Well, with this,
I know I was joking last night and saying that match of the weekend for me was Knoxville and Sami, but honestly, the best match of the night was of both nights, like best pure wrestling match of both nights was the Raw Women's title.
Yeah, Bianca versus Becky, or Becky versus whatever. It was just amazing. And this is one of the few instances we have in modern WWE history now of long-term storytelling, because they've been doing this story for almost a year now. And it's just beautiful. And they're building Bianca Belair as the woman who's taking out all of the horsewomen.
Yeah, did you see her tweet where she said 3 down, 1 to go? Hashtag horsewomen.
I think it's Charlotte's the one that's left, right?
Yeah, because she had the original feud with Bayley, and then Bayley lost the belt to Sasha, and then she had with Sasha at WrestleMania last year, and then from SummerSlam on with Becky. So yeah, Charlotte is the last one that she will have to beat.
Wouldn't it be great if next year at WrestleMania she beats Charlotte, and the following year at WrestleMania she beats Bayley? Like, I know that she already went up against Bayley, but like just wrestling all of them. Also, you got to take a moment to talk about, again, the gear of both Bianca and Becky. I mean, I said to you, like, people are going to be cosplaying at Comic-Cons this year as Becky Lynch. Like, that outfit is iconic. We're going to see action figures and everything else of her in that. She looked phenomenal.
Fucking awesome. And I was the only person out of everybody that I was with that felt that way. All I heard about here, like, I was hearing, I was like, oh my God, her makeup looks terrible. And oh, what's wrong with her hair? It looks like she hasn't washed it. And like, what's that outfit? And I'm sitting there thinking, like, it's WrestleMania, man. She is extravagant. And like that makeup was fucking incredible.
Amazing. I loved it with the hair and everything else. And
I sent you that picture of Aries. I'm like, she's a god of war right now. She's ready to go. Like,
yeah, it was fantastic. And Bianca Belair, I'm pretty sure the sparkles on her boots, like how her boots were, I absolutely loved them. But corresponded, like I forget what it was now. I'd have to look at Montez Ford's outfit, but something matched up in them. I remember thinking whether that was intentional or not. It was definitely something I had noticed. But the most amazing thing about Bianca Belair, other than everything else she already does in that ring and like just the person she is, she makes her ring gear. And I loved, yeah, because I guarantee she made what she was wearing, and she often makes a lot of the Street Profits stuff. So I just loved how she had the lips done, and phenomenal. And she had that like Minnie Mouse look coming down. By the end, she definitely, I think when Becky was doing, I think Becky accidentally hit her in the eye with her foot.
Did.
Yeah.
Have you seen her eye?
Oh yeah. It's jacked. I don't think she broke her orbital bone or anything, but probably very close to it.
That's swollen. It's like swollen shut. Like that is that is a, hey, you guys, that's a sloth walk going on, right? Like it's bad.
Yeah. But you know what? She still looked gorgeous.
Talk about that 450 splash that she did from the middle rope.
Yeah.
Not like, oh my God, the core strength and like to get that from the middle rope. Like she's a freak athlete. She is gotta be pound for pound the strongest person in that company. Like she's 100%. Just, this is a woman that picked up Otis. You know,
like it was nothing. Like I feel like the struggle that she showed was like just for the cameras, honestly.
Unbelievable. Like she's unbelievable.
Yeah. And that was just such an amazing match from bell to bell. I was invested the whole time. And they did a great job of building it. And I can't wait to see Becky's reaction to all of this.
Scene where, what was it, day 2, I think it was, where she walked into like, it was like a media thing or something, or like a fan thing or something, and she bought herself a replica Raw Women's title belt. So she's carrying like one of the ones the fans wear. She's carrying one of those with her. I'm like, I love her.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is the replica belts. So any, unless I'm sure it's probably Stone Cold and The Rock have probably actually been gifted some of their, and John Cena too, have probably actually been gifted some of their belts by WWE. But otherwise, any belt that they get, like anytime Becky has won that, if she wants to keep one, she has to buy a replica. Like you have to do that. And I learned that from Rebby Hardy.
Huh.
They've had to buy each of the titles that Matt has won in order, and then put on the plates and everything else. And yeah.
Oh wow, I knew that.
Which honestly I think is some bullshit.
Yeah.
I think at least the first time you win it, you should get the title.
You're a fucking multi-billion-dollar company. You can't give your champion a $500 belt. Are you kidding me?
And it's not even just them. I understand like indies doing that, but it's not just the indies. Like it's literally everywhere. That's
crazy.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you again for Rebby Hardy for educating me on the back half of the wrestling industry. So do you have anything else about Becky versus Bianca?
I mean, that was my match of the weekend. That like I said, like like seriously my match of the weekend, because I'm definitely gonna say it was Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville later, but
Mm-hmm.
it was
It
just
was
great storytelling and great in ring, and like Becky just told a great story, like with her facial. She's so good with her facial expressions. Like I've criticized her before because sometimes she overdoes it a little bit, like when they kick out at 2. Like
mm,
that's just something that she's been doing like way too much lately. Like what really 2? Like every time but she just looked like a person that was completely like unraveling, and knowing that she was like, she just, because we've spent most of this talking about Bianca, like Becky did a fantastic job looking like
mhm.
she was just completely losing it and unraveling and realizing like, holy shit, I'm losing this title. And they were just, they're great. There's no match that was, there's matches that came close, but there's no match that was better than this.
Agreed. And I love that they did the thing where Bianca cut some of Becky's hair to like explain this new look. At first, when I saw Becky pull out the system, like, please tell me they're not going to have a white woman cut a black woman's hair on national television against her will. Like, no. This, no. And as soon as Bianca got the scissors, I was like, that's fine. That's fine.
You know what is absolutely wild though? Bianca just made her look like she gave her layers.
Yeah.
Like when you saw her after, it was like Becky looks fine. It's like she like took the parts that she needed to take to just look like she put some layers in her hair. It doesn't even look bad.
Yeah. I'm kind of, as soon as I saw that, because I noticed that as well, I was just like, does Bianca Belair also know how to do hair? I would not be surprised.
Seriously, she knew exactly which like spots of hair to take and cut it where it just looked like Becky went and had layers put in her hair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she could have left it the way it was and it probably would have been fine.
Right?
Like, welcome to Bianca Belair's salon. We're just gonna grab chunks and cut, and it's gonna look fantastic. I'm sure, she knew where she wanted to cut, and she was cutting like lower on Becky's hair, not like to her scalp.
And she probably grabbed some extensions too, like cut like extensions over actual hair.
Yeah. But yeah, phenomenal. Absolutely. I know that's AJ Styles' word, but stupendous. It was stupendous.
I refuse. I will not use that word.
I wonder if stupendous is going to make like a comeback in vocabulary because of this, because people have been saying it and thinking about it so much.
I hope not.
I think it'd be really cute to see like a little kid be like, stupendous.
That'd be fine. But like in normal conversation, it's just such a stupid word. Like,
or someone like William Regal with his tears be like, oh, stupendous, yeah.
quite smashing.
Smashing, stupendous, yes.
Just turn him into Nigel Thornberry. Like,
yeah.
smashing,
darling. You know what's funny? Even now, every time I hear smashing, and a British person saying it, my mind goes back to that Triple H Stephanie McMahon storyline where she said she was pregnant, wasn't, and had that actor pretend to be a doctor, and Linda sent the video about him talking about vacations with smashing beaches, and yeah, that's all I can think of. That is how much WWE has like rotted parts of my brain.
Oh my god.
Smasher.
That's too funny.
Like immediately, the whole thing just quickly, like a little reel of it just plays in my brain every time.
That's funny.
Yeah. So anyway.
I know I'm stalling the next one.
So we have Seth Rollins versus his mystery opponent, which there was a moment where I was like, it has to be Cody, because I swear to God, if it's Goldberg or Shane McMahon, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. And I did think that they might troll us by sending out Shane and then having him introduce Cody. I do want to talk about Seth's gear when he came down. It was just layers of ugly.
But it was awesome.
And I really appreciated, you don't often see men wear like the pants he was wearing where it had like actual material and then lace where you could see his leg, like the rose lace pattern, and then pant again. And I really appreciated him wearing something that if you see a man wearing, usually it's those are bigger in gay culture. I definitely see them on drag race and things like that when people aren't in drag. So I really appreciated that being there. And also, for the love of God, do a crossover already between RuPaul's Drag Race and WWE. RuPaul's Drag Race name drops WWE enough. Come on.
You'll get it one day, Sabrina. You'll get it one day.
They just need, I will just like force myself into that writer's room and just start like sticking that into like people's decks of things that they're presenting to Vince. It'll make no sense and be like, and then RuPaul Charles comes out. What? Did we hire RuPaul? But yes, back to this. I really appreciated Seth's gear. Everything that Seth does, honestly, like top notch. Him and Becky both are on the top of their game. And then of course we had Cody Rhodes return. I think it would be return to WWE. And the roof came off of the arena. Like so much love for that man poured out of everyone's bodies that there's no way he did not feel that. And that is amazing and something he 100% deserves.
We forgot one other person that was rumored that it could have been. Bray Wyatt was another because
he was in the
he Instagrammed out that he was at Dallas. So that was another, oh wait, maybe it might not be Cody. Maybe that was all just a swerve and maybe it's actually going to be the Fiend or, you know, and which would make sense for Seth because they had their feud. So, I mean, like for a storyline that could have made, I think he was there for something else, like and like a Ring of Honor or an Impact thing or something. But
he was there for an autograph signing, yeah.
But I have to say that I am very much surprised that they allowed him to still keep not the song. The song I figured he would, but I didn't think that he would still get wrestling has more than one royal family. I thought that they would drop that from his entrance 100%. And I was very shocked when I heard that before his music started.
I'm because everyone loves Dusty so much, I'm not surprised because I'm sure and I mean, you can also make, so if we were going to say, I mean, clearly it's in reference to the McMahons, but I think if you really think about royal families, wrestling, dynasties, things like that, you're going to think not only them, but like Randy Orton's, the Ortons, they have a line, the Flairs, honestly, out of everyone, including the McMahons, I would think the Harts over everybody.
That was the first that my mind went to was Brett, Owen, Natty, Jim Neidhart, like
I mean
Bulldog.
Even you know, the father who trained everyone. Like when you talk about people who changed and families that changed the landscape of wrestling, 100% Stu Hart is one of the names you have to talk about. Yeah,
I'm just shocked because of Vince's ego. Like I didn't think, because I mean, yeah, there are a lot of royal families in wrestling, but let's be real, that was 100% aimed at the McMahons when Cody still hated WWE as far as February. I went back and watched his last AEW promo and I'm like, still doesn't make sense to me, man. It doesn't make sense, but that's fine. I just want him to be happy. I just want him to be happy, and I still want him to have promos like he had in AEW, and I don't think he's gonna.
He might, because he got his contract, he has some creative control. I forget what it was, but he's I think he's a producer. Oh no, he's a producer on the Dusty. They're doing one of their documentaries on Dusty, and Cody is now like has a bunch of the creative control with that and is a producer. And I know they gave him some. He said he does not want to be in a role like he had in AEW. He never wants to be an EVP, right? Yes, yeah. He doesn't want to do that again. But I think he has in his contract some control over some to a lot of control over his own character. So, and we see others will have that. Becky Lynch, for example, has said most of the time her promos are all her. Seth definitely has that same thing. So
I think Owens does too.
Yeah. And I think the fact that Cody came back and beat Seth Rollins, who is a WWE boy through and through, is a big vote of confidence in I shouldn't say a big vote of confidence in Cody. I think it helps show the fans where they place Cody's worth. Because
why they I have a different opinion on why they had him win. Because they want more people to cross over.
Well,
so
yeah.
They show, like
100%. Like I said, like if they sign him, they have to, for the next year, 2 years, like as those contracts that they want are coming up, Cody Rhodes, if they're smart, they're gonna treat him like gold. Like whatever he wants. He wants someone that wipes his ass. He will have a personal ass wiper. It won't be Vince, but it'll be somebody.
Shane.
It'll be Shane. Shane will be his personal ass wiper. He'll probably be like, "Would you like some powder, sir? My liege."
I mean, the match was good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie, I was messaging more than watching it. I was talking to you and I was talking to my cousin, our first fan. He works overnight, so I wanted to make sure that he was watching before I spoiled it on him, and he was watching. He wasn't working, so I was more in my feelings and messaging my cousin than paying attention to most of this match. But from what I was and I also had a small child that was there that was demanding my attention a lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I still have feelings. Like I said to you, I like an underdog story, and I love this idea of like these 4 wrestlers that like found some billionaire kid that was a wrestling fan that was like, let's make this alternative company and grow it from the ground and give these wrestlers a chance that, you know, like WWE probably wouldn't take a chance on, like, you know, Orange Cassidy and like Jungle Boy, like, you know, smaller guys. And it's just the 4 of them together. Like I love them on BTE together and like all the Fuck the Revival stuff and like just their chemistry and like Cody's promos. And it was just something like different finally and cool. Like AEW feels cool. Like WWE feels like Disneyland and AEW feels like Universal. You know what I mean? Like there's a clear difference. One is clearly more aimed at children and one is clearly more aimed at people our age. And I don't know, it bothers me that it's an EVP, that it's an ex-EVP that was the first one to cross over. That bothers me a lot. And there's a lot of toxic on both sides.
The wrestling fans are insane. No matter what extreme you're on, it's because I guarantee for everyone who was like, yeah, death to AEW after that on the WWE side, there were people on AEW who were probably sending Cody death threats. So
I've seen more people that are hurt, like that they're hurt that he left. That's what I like. Because you left a lot of those groups or that one group in particular.
Yes.
And I'm just seeing on that group people that are clearly WWE fans that are making posts gloating about Cody going over there, and people that are like AEW fans, like, why are you on this page? And just seem like just like bummed out about it, like upset that he left. And I hate that it's giving like the people that want AEW to like fail and have hundreds of people unemployed.
Yeah.
It gave them ammo, and they're even more obnoxious online now. Like, I had to avoid the internet for hours after he first debuted because of the shit that I was seeing. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't look. It's just gonna piss me off.
See, I had already really like worked hard to make sure I wasn't seeing that kind of garbage on my social media, in general from either side, because I just can't. Like, I couldn't take one more person saying, like, pitting like Britt Baker against whatever woman on the WWE roster and saying that one or the other was garbage, because they're not. Like, just because you happen to wear a WWE or an AEW hat does not mean you are garbage. They're like, Britt Baker is an excellent wrestler, as is Charlotte Flair. Like, they're different. I would love to see them face off against each other one day, but that's neither here nor there. I got rid of a lot of the toxicity so I wouldn't have to see it. But I'm definitely, Tony Khan made perhaps the biggest mistake that he will ever make in his promoter career, and I doubt Cody Rhodes was making outrageous demands. I highly doubt it. Like,
I think he wanted like about as much as like Punk and Brian and them were making. And I love Cody, but I don't think he deserves Brian Danielson money, if that makes sense. Like, or CM Punk money, when there are two that are mega stars. You know what I mean? Like, they're on a different tier.
mm-hmm.
And like Cody and the Bucks and them and like Hangman, they're below that tier.
Mm-hmm.
And MJF and all of, like, it's not fair to ask for the same amount of money that they're getting and then be upset that you're not getting it. However, I can't fault him for getting the money he wanted from Vince and going there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just selfishly upset because I like him better on AEW.
I think so, especially considering all the stuff Cody did backstage and the fact that he trained so many of the, he should have been given the money, because he was a workhorse for everything. He also went and did different ventures for AEW. He got eyes from different places, like the Go Big Show and like he was bringing eyes in from elsewhere. Whereas you will never see Daniel Bryan do that. Daniel Bryan's big within the wrestling world, 100%. But Daniel Bryan does not want to take out time with his kids to go and be a judge on a show. Punk, you might see do that, because I mean he's done that kind of stuff before, but I really think it's foolish not to give Cody Rhodes that money, especially if you have it. And it's going to be, the big money contracts are going to be a big sticking point for people like MJF, because I do 100% believe that MJF isn't completely bullshitting when he says that in 2024 he wants a lot more money, because he's one of the big stars there. And Tony Khan's going to really have to think about, okay, how about I don't bring in some people for a while so I can manage to hang on to the stars I've created, because MJF 100% will do better in AEW. But if Vince McMahon offers him $1 million more than what Tony Khan's doing, and maybe says like, I'll give you a little leeway. I'll put in your contract that, your promos, you can do them. You just can't say certain words. I think like if you do shit like that, like for the love of God, Tony, like be smart with your money. Be smart.
I don't think that he will let MJF go as easily. I think he's probably learned after this, and I like your MJF, your Darby, your Sami, the pillar. I'm not worried about Britt because Britt has already flat out said she will never go to WWE because she doesn't trust them. But like say that I'm sure that they're interested in her. I don't think Tony would let her go either. Like she would get whatever she wanted.
Yeah. If he were to let Britt Baker go, the women's division would crumble. And I say that sitting here in a Chris Statlander shirt and loving so many of the women that are a part of that roster, but they don't have anybody else who is carrying it. Like even Thunder Rosa at this point, she's working her way up, but she's not to the Britt Baker level yet.
No, she's a megastar. Like she is. It's sad to say it, but she is the lone woman, like megastar in that division. And I mean, they are finally starting to try to build up other people after 3 years now, almost. Almost. Like you said, Thunder Rosa, Statlander has this whole new look.
Yep.
And I mean, finally, maybe we will get some other ones, so it's not all just resting on poor Britt. Like she needs a break too, like
if she gets injured, that's the other thing. Like if she has an injury where she can't travel, poof. And I'm not wishing that on her. I hope she has a long, healthy career. She is wonderful.
I didn't even think that, like, even though this was strictly supposed to be like WWE WrestleMania, obviously we would have ventured into AEW land with Cody.
Yeah.
That's kind of unavoidable.
Yeah. I am very excited though for some of the matches that Cody is going to have. I can see some like fun stuff coming up. Just with some of the people who've come up from NXT that weren't there before. Also very excited for whenever the hell A Shot of Brandy starts as a TV show. Very pumped. Not WWE related on that, but still.
Was Owens up yet when he was?
I don't think so. And if he was, I don't think they ever faced off.
What was 6 years ago? 2016. Yeah, I think just for a little bit of crossover when Owens first came up when he was the NXT champ, like fighting Cena.
Yeah.
I think Stardust still existed at that point.
But think like Sami Zayn versus Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. Like I think that would just be a really fun match in general, especially when we get into what Sami Zayn has done. Because if Cody Rhodes brings one of his celebrity friends in, like, and Sami has, it could be a fun thing.
Yeah.
Moving into Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey.
Oh my God, I almost skipped over that completely.
Ronda did better than I thought she was going to do. Because as I've said, Ronda for a long time, since she's come back, hasn't felt completely comfortable in her own body to me. Which is understandable after giving birth, like your body changes. And I think she was doing a lot of in ring work. There we go. With Shayna Baszler. So I'm just gonna give all the credit to Shayna Baszler. Shocking, I know. But
how unusual for you.
yeah, off brand for me. Charlotte did the best she could to carry this match. She really truly did. Charlotte's gear was amazing. I loved I loved that. Although you did get little pieces of it, like the whatever gemming or beating it was.
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw it throughout the ring. But
One of them popped out of their gear twice at the end of the match, so they weren't really tucked in well either.
Yeah, which is why we had the where our screens went black for a while. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't into this match's lead up, and I think this was probably Charlotte's worst
Weakest.
WrestleMania. Like her, and it's
Not her fault.
not her fault. It wasn't a bad match, like it wasn't it it was average. It was not WrestleMania worthy. Yeah, I just felt really bad for Charlotte and for the Ronda Rousey fans, because there are Ronda Rousey fans.
I was just so happy that Charlotte won.
Yes.
That's my main takeaway from it. I just wanted Charlotte to win so badly. And I know that there are a lot of people that are sick of, LOL, Charlotte wins, like she's the new Cena.
I'm going to go ahead and say this as a Cena fan. Charlotte Flair is a much better wrestler than John Cena. I'm just going to say that out loud.
Well, I mean, we all know about Cena and his 5 moves of doom. Even he plays off of that too. Like, but I hate Ronda Rousey as a human, and I hope she goes away. Like, I just want her to go away. Just go away. Go somewhere that isn't wrestling. I don't need you on my screen. I'm done.
She just seems so disinterested.
Yeah, and she has such disdain for the fans, because she definitely made that clear after she left last time. Like, why come back for the money? You can probably do movies or whatever the hell else you want for money. If you hate it here so much, just leave. Like, just go. We don't want you.
Oh. So moving on to the KO show.
This was so fun.
It was so great. Like, everything from Kevin Owens yawning when Steve came out. Everything was
his shirt this year was just great.
Fantastic.
I love him. I just love him. So he is in my top 5, like 100%. He's in my top 5. I just adore him, and it's clear why he stayed. Like, because he was dropping hints for Mount Rushmore, and it definitely looked like he was gonna leave. And I think he got offered a truck ton of money and told, if you stay, we will try to get you a wrestling match with Austin at WrestleMania.
And I mean, he headlined WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Not only that, not only did he face Austin, but he headlined WrestleMania in one of the segments that will live on in history. Like, 19 years. After 19 years, Stone Cold Steve Austin came back to face Kevin Owens. Like, you don't have a bigger moment than that. Like,
no. I mean, arguably, Stone Cold Steve Austin is the biggest wrestler ever. I think he surpassed Hogan, honestly.
I think both him and The Rock surpassed Hulk Hogan in like name recognition. But yeah, I mean, obviously The Rock has had a much more successful career after wrestling, but Stone Cold is forever linked with wrestling, specifically the WWE.
Oh yeah, like if I had you'd probably go like Austin, Hogan, Rock is probably like your biggest mainstream, everybody knows their name type, like I think in that order.
I don't know, like younger generations don't know Hogan.
But nothing was bigger than Hogan in the 80s. I mean, that was just that, not saying like who has heard of him, just like to think of the history of wrestling, like nothing was bigger than Hogan in the 80s. That was The Rock in wrestling. It was because of him, like it just, but I think Austin I think Austin in his prime beats that.
I mean, Vince has said that flat out.
And for Owens to have that main event match with someone he looked up to, like, I can't imagine how that must have felt for him. To be able to have that match, to get stunned, like the beer poured on, like all the quad
at WrestleMania.
Like, yes, it's just, I'm so happy for him, and it was so fun. And like, yeah, Austin looked a little slower, which is to be expected.
Understandable, yeah.
He's what, 50-ish years old, you know. He's
hasn't
getting up
wrestled. It hasn't wrestled in 19 years. As Kevin Owens pointed out, he has a bad neck, bad back, bad knees. And yeah, he was moving around better than some of us in our 30s do when we get off of the couch.
Yeah, 100%. And like Owens showed him so much respect because he sold the fuck out of everything. Like, oh my God. It was fun.
Yeah.
If Becky and Bianca was the best match on the whole card, Austin and Owens was the most fun, like, to watch on the whole card for the first night.
Okay, I was gonna say, I would argue the second night has a much more fun moment.
Oh,
also involving Austin, but
yeah.
But yeah, like it was a great way to close out night one. It was a great way to close out WrestleMania in general, but it was, you couldn't write it better. You really couldn't. It was everything you could ever want. And Stone Cold is still in really good shape. Like he wasn't out of breath. You know, his cardio is great. And I'm so happy to see, because like he's been open about the fact that he had substance abuse issues. And I mean, it wasn't uncommon to see wrestlers who had those sort of issues. I mean, yeah, he's been well, he can't say sober, but he's broken away from those issues and has been living a much cleaner life. But even for the guys who were able to do that, like they're not doing, they weren't doing so well at his age. Also, Austin has the money to make sure that he's doing well, but it was just great to see.
Yeah, I feel like that should have closed WrestleMania in general because, well, we're gonna get to it, but
yeah, I think we both talked about this. We both have a theory about what happened, but
it legit happened, so that's why.
Yeah. So on to night two. The way they opened night two, I was in tears. Triple H coming out, first of all, and then he did his entrance. It's the first time we've ever seen his girls, by the way. Like you never see their faces. Like whenever Stephanie or Triple H post, and he did a pretty good job of still like shielding their faces. I think you only really saw the one who's
Steph's
mini
clone.
Steph. Yeah, mini Steph.
Shit.
He was probably like, they can see it because if anyone sees you in real life, they're gonna know whose kid you are.
Oh my! Immediately, you'd look immediately, be like, "Oh, okay, that's Steph McMahon's kid." Like, looks just like her.
Yeah. I would be fine if every year Triple H welcomed us all to WrestleMania. Like, abso-freaking-lutely, I am there for it. Like, WrestleMania is not WrestleMania without Triple H, in my humble, always correct opinion.
No, I agree. I definitely agree. It really made it did make it feel like WrestleMania when that music hit, and he did the whole thing. When did he have time to sneak boots in the ring? Because like I didn't think all of a sudden they were there.
There must have been like just someone holding them. They were like, here.
That got me.
Yeah, the boots. That's when the tears hit in the microphone. I was just like,
yeah, that got me.
Yeah, my heart. Oh, like I'm so glad he got to have that, but also like I'm not emotionally prepared for it at all. Like I'm not prepared. And I'm sure it's much worse for him. Like in all seriousness, it's much worse for him.
I was saying last night that God, of all people to not be able to have that last match to go out on your back to put somebody over, like of all people, he deserved that. He deserved to have that like
Mm-hmm.
last retirement match because my God, nobody has done more for the current state of wrestlers within like the last decade than
Mm-hmm.
Triple H and like Shawn Michaels have done with NXT and Dusty and it, it just it breaks my heart. I'm actually getting choked up thinking about it that poor guy can't have that. He can't have
Mm-hmm.
that moment because he'll
Yeah.
die. He's got a defibrillator in him. He can't have that. And
Yeah,
it
like
just sucks.
he could, the only thing he could do, he might be able to like take a punch and then just lay down. That would literally be it. And I hope that never is something that actually occurs.
I think
Um,
he
but
yeah,
yeah, I never don't want to see Triple H. Like I hope he welcomes us every year to WrestleMania. I hope to see him all the freaking time. All the Triple H, send it this way.
I hope that he becomes the new Vince.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many people think that they're gonna sell because of how like that Nick Khan guy is like gutting everything. I I just want Triple H to take over. I mean, look what he did with NXT Black and Gold. Like he gets it. He gets
Mm-hmm.
what like modern wrestling fans want. He gets what they want to see. He gets how to do it. He doesn't think it's still 1997. Like he understands what a modern fan wants.
And he
And
treats the wrestlers well.
yes, he
Like,
treats the fans and the wrestlers with respect and not like they're stupid and doesn't talk down to an audience and not I will tell you what you like, don't tell me who you want to be over.
mm-hmm.
He's a perfect person for it because he was on the other side of it. He was a wrestler, so he
Mm-hmm.
knows how to treat the talent and he knows how to treat the fans because he's also a fan. Like
Mm-hmm. And I will go ahead, like I think he has one of, if not the best mind in wrestling. Um, I mean, there are others that come close, but when people talk about like what he did with the performance center, no one had ever done that before. They're doing it now, but no one had ever done it before. And I think it was Shawn Michaels had said like that was something he had talked about for years. Like, wouldn't it be cool to do this? And then, and I mean, there's a lot of people who aren't fans of finding athletes from other avenues and then bring them into wrestling. But Bianca Belair was one of those. Like, and she's one of the biggest stars now. Like, she was not on the track to be a pro wrestler until she did, a tryout. And thank goodness she did.
right, she's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be a mix of those two things, right? Like you need the indie people and you need to bring like people in from elsewhere and train them, right? And that's what Triple H was doing. So yeah, I was so happy to see him, and he got so much love at like the Hall of Fame and the unveiling. And even Cody has said like Triple H was his favorite wrestler, and he still very much so is. And I kind of wonder if I don't think Triple H gave a damn that he was doing like the sledgehammer stuff, and because I think he knew it wasn't personal attacks.
Golden shovel.
Yeah, yeah, and stuff
Well,
like that.
apparently, the last person to see Cody before he went out was Triple H.
Mm-hmm.
Before he went out to perform that night, Triple H was the last one to go to his trailer to see him.
Yeah.
So obviously they're fine. I mean, speaking of brilliant wrestling minds, Cody Rhodes has a brilliant wrestling mind. Those
Yeah.
two together, that's another reason I'm hoping that Triple H becomes, like the new Vince because
Mm-hmm.
Triple H is open to working with other companies. He's like, he will admit other companies exist.
Mm-hmm.
You can, and then you have Cody that was in, that is still supposedly on good terms with Tony Khan. you can have crazy like crossover matches. Like I was telling you, I will literally sell my soul to whatever deity exists to have Kenny the Bucks versus New Day. I want it so badly. More than just a Street Fighter tournament. I want them to fight in the ring.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or like Kenny Omega versus Seth Rollins, even like there would be money in that. And I don't want to see him versus Roman. I have no interest in that. But Seth Rollins, because of that character work that the two of them could do, just
you know what I do kind of want to see is just Omega versus Woods, just those two alone.
oh
Because
yeah.
of their little like banter online all the time. I would love to see them just have a match together too.
So I would love to see them have a match, but I would want the stipulation to be that, you know, Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Like I would want them where they would have to stay in like that kind of pose with their upper body. Can you imagine? Like they're just like running at each other doing those punches.
That would definitely be different. That would be different for sure.
Yeah, I think that there's money in that match.
Oh, Sabrina will pay at least.
I think a lot of people Rock'em Sock'em wrestlers, come on. Hopefully one of their heads doesn't fly up though. That could be a new video game, just saying. So again, we have a tag match kicking off night 2. It's RK Bro versus the Street Profits versus the Alpha Academy. I wasn't shocked that this kicked it off because if you're looking to get it started off on the right foot, this is the way to do it. And I mean, they delivered.
Oh yeah. This was the best wrestling match on the card.
Yeah, and it was so fun. There was so much talent in that ring. Also, I just want the Otis and Gable, what the hell is it? Chad Gable, there we go. Is it a Snickers commercial that they did? Their little commercial. I loved that. Him and his shoosh.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Otis has done so much for Gable's career, but I think it's hurt his.
Yeah.
He needed and it's not the same with the Gable. I won't lie, for a long time, me and Nam would just walk around the house doing that.
He's almost like a chicken.
Yeah. Well, that's what he reminded me of anyway in the ring when he would do it.
Yeah, I agree. Gable's career is flourishing and Otis's has regressed from it's a very weird thing. It's very strange. I feel like they're turning now, and I don't mean this as a bad thing, but like Chad Gable is definitely being turned into like a Kurt Angle light. Like when Kurt Angle was, like goofy,
Yeah.
like that. It's like they're trying to recreate it a little bit, but with Gable's own little spin, and I don't hate it. It reminds me of, like history repeating itself.
Yeah. This is the thing that has worked best for Gable. I've never been a fan of his, but I'm liking this. It feels right. Not Tucker. Sorry. Otis only works as a babyface. I think he only works as a babyface. He's not selling me on the heel.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it either. I feel like he's kind of fading into obscurity with like he's just like the side character out of their team, which is sad because think about 2 years ago how that was like the best moment of WrestleMania when like he and Mandy finally kissed. Like, could you imagine the pop that would have got if they actually had like got to have that in a live crowd? If like the pandemic never happened,
the roof would have come off the place.
Oh, everybody was so behind it. But yeah, this match was awesome. That when Montez Ford went like 90 feet, and
how does that man get such height? Like, I
don't know.
Is he he has frog legs or something? Right. Like he just into the atmosphere he went.
He and Bianca, they are they're just superhumans. Like they're not real. They can't be real.
Like, my goodness, they are meant for this. Like, they are meant to be WWE superstars.
Right.
This is where they're meant to be.
And meant for each other apparently too.
Oh
Like,
gosh, their love is beautiful. If you would like to hear us gush about their love, please go back and listen to our Valentine's Day episode. Where we're like, for a solid 10 minutes, we talk about how much we love their love.
We'll talk about it every time they come up.
Mm-hmm.
No, this was, I mean, even when this card was announced, mostly everyone I knew was saying that this is going to be the show stealer, was this tag match, because look at the teams. I mean, Orton and Riddle, the RK Bro is just working. I didn't think it would work, but it is just, they're one of my favorite things. They really are. They're one.
And you,
like I said,
are you going to say what you had texted me? Because I was going to say about that.
When I said you get yourself someone that looks at you like Riddle looks at Randy.
Yeah. Yeah, like, oh, such love and admiration. I think great. Kim's gonna have to step in at some point and just be like, hey, he's mine, back off. Go home to your wife, Riddle.
And Randy just seems like he's having like the most fun with all these kids. Like, I say kids, but like to him, yeah, because they're all, I mean,
15 years younger.
Yeah, they're probably close to,
I think Riddle's
probably younger than us. Yeah, around our age, younger. It was so fun, and I'm so glad that they won. I hate when WWE does that thing when they put a makeshift tag team together, it works, and then they rip them apart when they're like at the height of their popularity. And I was so afraid that RK Bro was going to lose and they were going to break up, and I'm so glad that didn't happen.
So Riddle is 36 years old, and he's from Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Shut up.
Yeah.
How about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I like him. The fellow Pennsylvanian.
Yep. That's the only reason that we like Riddle. Yep. He just resonates in Pennsylvania. Even though he has like a surfer vibe in this landlocked state.
I mean, he does remind me of at least like 6 different dudes I went to high school with, so it's fair.
Yeah. Agreed. But yeah, this was a great match. I will say, I think all of the tag matches, okay, I take that back.
Almost.
Yeah, almost. Any of the ones that were for titles did well. And then there was Logan Paul. Miz did great. And
I was thinking of another one.
Are you thinking of the women's? Because we will have words.
No, I'm thinking of the one that wasn't even 2 minutes long.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Okay, so yeah, any of the ones that were for titles, I'll stick with that. We're good. Even when one unfortunately had a very bad injury.
Better soon.
Yeah, but yeah, I give all the thumbs up to the opening, and again, like, this was a great opening match, and I like that they had the Gable Stevenson, that they had him come in and Montez was pouring from that bejeweled cup, which was definitely pouring water for everyone, which I'm sure is exactly what they wanted actually after that. And then Chad Gable comes up and slaps the cup out of his hand, and yeah, it was just, and Chad Gable looks so small.
Oh, didn't the crowd start chanting, "You fucked up" too? I'm pretty sure they did.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. And, Gable put him over. Gable put Gable over.
Yeah, that's going to get confusing. One of their names are going to end up getting changed.
It's just going to be Chad.
You don't think they're going to Stevenson to...
They might have him go by Stevenson. I don't think they're going to change necessarily either of their names. Like, I think they're going to shorten them to hopefully not Shorty G. But I think it's because they're both established outside of wrestling, and when we see that happen, they don't. they don't fuck with their names too much.
They'll
Or
probably
they
just
might be, he
cut
might be
out-
like the Crusher Stevenson or something, but
They'll probably just cut off his first name because that seems to be something common that they do. They just like chop the first name and
yeah. Which I mean, in this case, makes sense.
yeah.
And then moving on, we have Bobby Lashley versus Omos, and I love Bobby Lashley.
Yep.
And if it wasn't for the fact that he had been injured, he would have had a much better opponent for WrestleMania. I'm happy he was not injured.
Yeah. I was glad he wasn't injured, and I'm
that's
glad
what
he
I'll
won.
say. Yeah, and I'm glad he won. And that's what I'll say about that match.
I don't want to ever wish a lack of income on another human. However, I think Omos is going to be future endeavored by the end of the month. The cuts that come after WrestleMania, he'll be gone.
I understand that they love their giants. He needed a lot of time down in NXT. I mean, he needed it. And AJ Styles tried his best. And if being with AJ Styles makes you only this good, I don't have a lot of hope for you.
Yeah, if you have a bad match with AJ Styles, then you will never have a good match. That's
like having a bad match with Bret Hart.
Yeah.
And Bret Hart made what's his face look good? The blonde
Crush? No.
Who Miss Elizabeth? Who was she?
Oh, Lex,
yeah. He made Lex Luger look good. And Ultimate Warrior. So I mean, I don't think Bret Hart could even do it with Omos. And
nope.
I mean, but I'm glad Bobby was on the card, and I'm glad that he's better now.
Yeah, there's that. At least Lashley got to be on WrestleMania, and I mean, he had a cool moment, like, you know, looking strong, throwing around a big guy. Like,
yeah, he had that. It was the weakest match, I would say, even with the abomination of time that they gave the New Day and Sheamus and Ridge Holland. I would still say that the Lashley Omos one was the weakest.
Fair.
Yeah, because they could have given them all the time in the world. Nothing would have happened. If New Day had more time, it could have been maybe not match of the night, but it would have been good.
Yeah. I mean, you never know what Ridge Holland, because he's still kind of green as grass, but
there was enough talent though between the other three that they could have carried it easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on to Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville. And I love, so Johnny Knoxville's attire gave me, for some reason, like 90s cartoon vibes, like Rocco's Modern Life meets Quail Man. Like the guy who's like Look Into My Nipples of the Future from Rocco's Modern Life and Quail Man from Doug. If they had a baby, that would be Johnny Knoxville's gear, if that's what we're calling it.
I'm pretty sure that his gear was, let me see. Here, I'm looking it up real quick. Because yeah, it's exactly what it was. I thought so. I think it was kind of supposed to be a play off of this. Let me see if I can get a good enough
picture.
Yeah. So like the Red Rocket thing that he did.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because okay, so for those of you that don't know, I am 37. I was a sophomore in high school in 2000. I was the target demographic for Jackass when that came out. I am a huge Jackass fan. I even went to go see the newest movie in the theater. Like we have the seasons on DVD, like we have the movies at home. I mean, my husband's been watching since the CKY tapes before like Jackass was even a thing. And it just, we're big Jackass fans in this house. That whole match was A, entertaining as hell, and B, it was such a love letter to anyone that's a Jackass fan. The big hand is in the third, like Jackass 3D.
Did you
Mouse traps of like Party Boy,
Wee Man? Oh my god, Wee Man doing that. People are like, that was one of the moves of the night. Like, it was phenomenal.
Let me see if this actually will show up, because there was a meme that I saw that made me literally laugh out loud.
Was it about the hand or it was about Wee Man? Because
no, it's the Wee Man thing.
Okay.
I don't know if you could see it. Could you?
Oh, like, no, but I remember seeing you shared that. We'll have to share that to our, by we, I mean, you'll have to share that to our page.
Yeah, definitely. It's so I'm sure most of you probably know the meme, from The Office where, Pam, corporate needs you to find the difference between two pictures. And it's Andre and Hogan and then Wee Man and Sami, and her saying it's the same picture.
Yeah.
It just, oh my God, Jeff Tremaine was there. They did the bowling ball spot. They had it was everything I was hoping it would be, and everyone that I hoped would show up except for Steve-O.
Yeah. It was so fun. It was just fun wrestling. It was fantastic.
It was sports entertainment at its finest. It was goofy. It was fun. It was entertaining. It just, I have seen that this is a very polarizing match, that people had either loved it or hated it. And I made the face
because I'm like, who didn't like that?
People that don't live in the US. I saw a lot of people that aren't from the United States, and I've seen a lot of comments about how it's US humor and they don't find it funny. And to be fair, we do like a lot of slapstick, like stupid humor. A lot of US humor is not very nuanced. It's very physical and just brainless, I like that. I mean, there's a time and place for it, and wrestling is definitely a time and place for slapstick, like physical humor.
Yeah. The Cultaholic boys liked it, so I assume that it fit, that people from England like it, because obviously they represent the whole of the British Isles.
Well, I think they already liked Jackass too, because they're close to our age.
Yeah.
At least like Sam and Pacitti, I know, are closer to our age than, I think Ross is in like early 30s.
Yeah, Pacitti and I think are the same age.
Are you guys?
Pretty sure. Again, let me consult.
But it was just, I don't have enough good things to say. And props to Knoxville. That man puts his body through absolute hell for the past 23 years now. He is insane. Like the bulls and the everything that he has done, and like Butterbean punching him in the, knocking him out, to wrestling Sami like 20 years later. I don't know. It was just,
he's nuts.
I loved it.
Yeah. And he seems like a very nice person too, which is great. I guess, getting your ass kicked for a living and doing stupid shit is humbling. Keeps you level-headed.
They never took themselves seriously, and I think that people that don't take themselves seriously tend to be nicer people.
Yeah.
Because they don't take themselves seriously. One thing I thought that was funny was, so Mcafee's probably our age too. So obviously, he's, and when he was talking about Chris Pontius and like saying like how he's seen every bit of his anatomy, and Michael Cole like did not get it. And I'm thinking like, oh, Michael Cole, you sweet little summer child. Like obviously you've never seen Jackass before, because it did not take much for Pontius to get naked. I have seen that man's dick and ass probably almost as much as my husband's, from as much that he has had it on screen. The beginning of the movie, they made like this, the beginning of the newest movie, it was like a Godzilla type thing, and the monster comes out coming through the city, and it is Pontius's dick painted green and like dressed up and like marionette it. It's a marionette penis is the opening of that movie. Like it doesn't take him much to show his bits and pieces. So that was what Mcafee meant by how he said that he probably has seen every bit of him.
He was just like, and McAfee and what is his name? Why am I blanking now?
Cole?
Michael Cole, yeah. Just are a beautiful tag team, or not tag team, commentators together. Michael Cole hasn't had this chemistry with someone since Taz. And I mean, honestly, I would say Michael Cole and McAfee are better together. Not to say anything, I love Taz as a commentator, so not to take anything away from him there, but like McAfee is just on a very different level than the rest of the world.
Yeah.
He's just living in a different place.
He's a special human.
He is, and we will get into how special.
I do agree with you. I love the new life that he seemed to have breathed into Michael Cole, because this is my favorite Michael Cole since I have been watching again in 2012. I have never liked him that much, and I love the pair of them together. They're great.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I also will say, just as we're talking about commentators real fast, I loved Byron Saxton's outfit, like the gold glitter suit he had going on. That man, no one, because Corey Graves gets a lot of talk about how, because Corey Graves is often dressed really well and put together really well. He's clearly a man that cares about fashion. Byron Saxton is beautiful. Like, and he's also someone who has just, you can see how like pure of soul he is by like just looking at his face. Like, he's someone that if he approached me in a dark alleyway, I'd be like, do you need some help, sir? Like,
it's like the wonderment of a child in his eyes. Like, he just
yeah, like, it's just like, he's not gonna do anything bad.
No, he looks very kind and harmless.
Yeah, and from everything I've heard, he is one of the sweetest people you will ever meet. And I guess he brings in, I don't think he lives with his mother, but he brings in a lot of like her home cooking for people, like when they're near wherever she lives, from my understanding. He just seems, I love it. Yeah, and he was just dressed beautifully. And I don't think he gets enough credit for, like, he's a good looking man to begin with, but he can dress really well, and just, beautiful. Chef's kiss all around.
He does always have very nice clothes. He always does look good.
Yeah. I know based on Corey's outfit, you and other people were worried once they saw Carmella that they were going to like get married afterwards. But I think he was just trying to match her for it, because he did say her gear was Madonna, like a virgin inspired, which once he said that, I was like, I can see that. Can definitely see it. I didn't realize that's what she was going for. So he definitely needed to fill in that piece. And I kind of think Vince was back there like, no one is getting this. Nobody is getting this. I don't want people thinking that a wedding is happening.
Yeah, they looked very much like bride and groom, which I thought was done purposely too, because of the whole they are going to be getting married. And apparently on their online show or backstage online or something, they were going to like fuck in the ring if Carmella and Zelina Vega won. So
that's what Carmella threatened.
Yep.
Oh,
I mean, the match was good regardless of that.
Oh, I have so many things to say about the women's match. So many things. Starting off with Sasha Banks' hair. I love like how she has the two tones now, and it just looked majestic as she was running around with the two different tones. I really love her and Naomi as a tag team. which is good since they won.
Yeah.
And it was Sasha Banks' first win at WrestleMania. She's been in plenty of WrestleManias, but she's always losing.
Yeah. I said that after they won. I was like, wait a minute. This is her first win, isn't it? And I was like, I don't know. And I'm like, to the internet, because when you don't know, you go to the internet. I'm like, holy shit, it really was. She has gone into WrestleManias as a champion, but never left as one.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. And then we have Liv Morgan and this is my brutality. There we go. Rhea Ripley, how to do the whole thing in my head. Coming out as Catwoman and Batman, which I got a little Donnie Darko from Rhea Ripley at first too. But when she took off that, I loved Rhea's makeup, like that, around her eyes, what she had going on there. Those two are, so I think all of the teams that they had together were fantastic for this and give me hope that the women's tag division that they're going to do something with it. Not to say that they haven't done stupid shit before, but they would be dumb to break up Liv and Rhea Ripley. They work fantastically together. The teams actually, I think all the teams worked well together, including obviously my girl Shayna and Natty. Nam had actually said he was just like, I don't know how Shayna Baszler hasn't been a women's champion on the main roster. And I turned to him and I was like, thank you for getting on this bandwagon with me 3 years in. I have been saying this since she debuted. Why isn't she champ?
Because Vince didn't get her. That was the...
Yeah. I know why she hasn't been, but I'm not happy about it. And I will keep barking about this until she is champ. And once she is champ, I will continue going on about how this should have happened sooner. Just so we're all prepared for the speech. And God help them if they ever release her. I will actually write a letter.
God. Okay, boomer.
Yeah, I will. I don't care. You know that picture of the cat in Hurricane Katrina or whatever that just looks salty?
Yes.
And that'll be me. That will be me.
Please don't hate me, but I keep forgetting that Italians and Shayna were in this match. I keep thinking it was just the other 3 teams.
At one point, I forgot that. So Zelina did a lot in this match. Zelina's been doing a lot lately. Because a lot of Carmella's stuff has been out of the ring. She's doing a lot of stuff, healing it up, shrieking at Corey Graves, or with Corey Graves, or sitting on him while he kicks his chicken legs around. Which the chicken legs is just hysterical. Other than that, though, I could live without the other things. But there were so many good moves within this match. The wrestling was very good, and I was shocked. I looked this up on, I think it was CBS Sports is where I pulled the card up from, and they graded each of the matches. And I specifically went and I looked. They gave the women's tag match a B+, which is higher than the grade that they gave the following match. And I was like, interesting. I was very excited to see CBS Sports do that for the women's tag match. Because I was just like, yes. Keep elevating and talking about the women's matches. Yes.
I mean, to be fair, the next match was not...
It was a bit of a letdown.
Yeah.
Which is I don't know if it's that I felt so tired at this point. I don't know what it was. Edge had a really cool entrance.
AJ came to that ring looking fucking livid because it wasn't pyro. He hit his face on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that set him off his game for the rest of the match. Because, I mean, it wasn't a bad match.
No.
It just wasn't what I expected out of Edge and AJ. And I don't know if it's because of Edge's recent heel turn that he's wrestling a little more like slow and methodical and, like not as explosive as he was during his face run since he's been back.
Mm-hmm.
That might be it. I don't know. It seemed like something was off, like chemistry, like something wasn't clicking. They just, it was just, and for 25 minutes of long of a match, I think it went like 10 minutes longer than it should have.
Yeah, they really should have taken 10 minutes of that match and given it to the New Day. And I hate to say that, right? Like it's AJ Styles, it's Edge. They've had great matches against other people. It did not work.
No.
And I spent most, and I think like everybody else, I spent most of the match being like, what the fuck happened to AJ?
Yeah.
And his face. And yeah, it was the sign apparently, but there was the fear that like pyro went off in his face and then yeah, like that's why I thought, I was like, was he fighting backstage? Like what?
A lot of people thought that. They thought he got like clocked in the face before he came out, which it looked like he did.
Mm-hmm. And then it would be like, who would hit AJ Styles? Who are we going to collectively slap around? AJ Styles is a sweet, precious baby. We do not slap AJ Styles when it's not part of the story.
With his gorgeous flowing locks.
Oh, that was the other thing. I think you and I spent more time talking about how beautiful AJ's hair was than the match itself. Because I actually, as I'm thinking about it, I don't really remember so much of the match. And this is a day later, but I remember how beautiful AJ's hair was.
I remember AJ's bleeding face. I remember Edge's entrance. I remember AJ's beautiful hair. And I remember the spear out of the air when AJ was doing a phenomenal forearm, because that was an awesome spot.
Yeah, that was great. But back to AJ's hair. Most people who have the hair that like voluptuous and thick are using extensions. That man is not. That's just his head of hair, which he has a bunch of sons, so good on them. Like if they inherit those genes, whew, it's such a direct contrast to Edge. Edge's hair is not doing so great. Edge spent a lot of his career ripping at his hair, so that might be why.
Also, AJ is I mentioned this to Brian. I didn't say it to you. I was like, you know what I just realized? He's like, what? I'm like, most guys with long hair that wrestle, they wet it. It's always pre-wet. AJ's like the only guy that comes out with like this, with like fluffy, non-wet.
It would be a sin. That's why it's an actual sin for AJ to wet his hair before matches. It would be a straight line to hell for him if he were to do that.
True. His hair is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Beautiful hair envy.
Like silken, like I bet it smells nice.
Yeah, probably, because it always looks clean, so it has to smell nice.
Yeah, like I'm sure like at least one of his kids and probably his wife are just there like braiding it when he's home, like, oh yes, who needs a stuffed animal? Daddy's home. So yes, great hairography and great spear, phenomenal forearm, and great entrance. And that's it from that match.
Yeah.
And then we move into the match that was pushed from night 1 to night 2. And I had said this to you, and I love the New Day. I absolutely love them. I have enough merch of theirs to prove it. And I love Sheamus. I've always been a big Sheamus fan. all about him. We all know how I feel about Pete Dunne at this point. Yes, Pete Dunne. And Ridge Holland can get there, hopefully, but they were given, what did you say the time was for their match? How long did it go?
I have here 1 minute and 43 seconds.
Yeah. I think I was messaging you and missed the entire match.
Yeah. The entrances to get were probably longer than the match itself. I hate that they had Kofi and Woods in E-inspired gear, like Big E. They were out there to avenge Big E, and Ridge Holland is the one that won the match. It was awful booking, awful placement, awful time. And oh my God, what are they doing to Pete Dunne? Oh my God, they turned him into Scrappy Doo. He is Scrappy Doo from Scooby Doo. He is, oh, let me at him, and then you pluck him and put him Sheamus was I can go on for a long time about everything that pisses me off about this match, but we are getting really close to the Raw after WrestleMania, so I'm just
we have 2 big things left, so
so I'm just gonna shelf my hatred until another time.
Yeah, but with all that, I wish they just would have completely canceled that match. And I hate saying it, I really do. Or put it on a pre-show. You did the same pre-show 2 nights in a row. Except Kittle from the 49ers was on this one, and he is one of 2 football players who I know who he is. So, and I think Kittle will be in the WWE after he finishes football, because he is so personable and he's so into it and just all about it. I think he will be crossing over, and I'm actually very excited for that. He seems like a really great guy, and he's just entertaining as all get out. So that's my 2 bits. Hopefully in a few years we'll be playing this back and be like, see how I was right, everyone. Yum, 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 yum. Moving on to Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory. This was a great match, and I love that Pat McAfee came out in his regular, this is what I wear on my podcast, but it was glittery, all the shinies.
I love that they got 7 Nation Army to be his song. His entrance was great. It was so football, so sports, because that's played at so many sporting events. It would just
and Pat McAfee, I think, was the most over person up to this point in night 2.
I don't know. I can make a strong argument for Wee Man.
Oh, that's true. There was that big pop. Yes.
I'm not even, that's not even being sarcastic or trying to be funny. Wee Man legit got one of the biggest pops of the night.
Yeah, for doing the slam. 100%.
Not only that, when he appeared from under the ring, the crowd went that's
true.
They went nuts for him.
Yeah, McAfee had this it was basically the whole match that people were just on their feet for Pat McAfee, and rightfully so, honestly. And that man can go.
That jump up to the top rope that he did, you could tell he's been training his ass off, and he is impressive. I forgot, from when he fought Adam Cole forever ago. I remember being then. I forgot how good he actually is. Either that or he trained and got better.
It's probably a mixture of the 2, honestly. Just amazing. Austin Theory did really well as well. Austin Theory, this is later, but he sold the stunner that he took more so than anyone I've ever seen sell a move in my. Dolph Ziggler, he put to shame with how he sold. Shawn Michaels, he put to shame with how he sold that move.
Rock.
He flipped 4 times and then died. Stone Cold didn't even have to kick him out of the ring. He was just gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have Pat McAfee win that match, which I was I was surprised. I was definitely surprised. But then it made so much sense when Vince McMahon, who they keep panning to, and he's doing all this facial work. And just this was Vince is almost 80 years old, which is an important thing. He is the new Mae Young. And he gets up after the match and basically says to Austin Theory, "Look out, young pup, I'll show you how it's done." Takes off his jacket and in his dress shoes wrestles Pat McAfee. And I mean, you really have to factor in his age here, but it was still entertaining as fuck. Like, people are chanting at Vince McMahon, "You still got it." It's just,
I was like, please don't encourage that. Like,
it was so much fun. And I remember watching a video, like one of the Cultaholic videos, where Sam Driver said all he wanted was for Vince McMahon to get in that ring. And he's like, "I know it's not going to happen." He's like, "This really old man, blah, 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 blah. He'll probably die, da, 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 da. But I really want to see it." And all I could think of was just Sam Driver and being like, "There you go, buddy. He heard your prayers." And, it was from start to finish, this segment, which I will count from when Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory's match started to the very end. I'm sorry, my Olive is like demanding attention. It was amazing. Like, this is what WrestleMania is about in a lot of ways. So Vince McMahon beats Pat McAfee after kicking a football into his chest abdomen area. And Pat McAfee eats the loss, which is fine because Pat McAfee is a commentator. He's not on the active roster, so it's not like Austin Theory did that. They're not burying anyone. This is the way that you do something like this. And then Vince screws up because they put on Austin Theory's music and he thinks it's Austin coming down, and that told everyone that someone was coming down. And then Austin's music hits. And my God.
right?
Austin kicked Vince McMahon's ass. And it is 2022, not 2002, not 1998. What are we living in right now? And I'm so happy that I feel like after that pandemic, we deserve this.
Yeah.
We deserve it.
Well, it was funny because when that happened, like Brian set up and he goes, I know that the timeline split off in like 2020. I go, "No, Brian, that was 2015 when we went off into that alternate reality." He's like, "All right, fair. So I know that we split off in 2015. He's like, "What universe are we in? Are we in the bad one?" He's like, "It's 2022 and Vince and Austin are fighting in the ring at WrestleMania." And that's what he was like, "Is this the series finale of WWE?" And like, it sure shit feels like it. Like, they're pulling out all the hits. I'm like, the only thing we need is like The Rock to come out at the end of the show, and then I'll be like, "Yep, they're selling. It's over."
Right? The Rock comes out and he shanks Hulk Hogan. They sacrifice him. WWE is over.
It was so bizarre. Like I said to you last night, if someone told me 5 years ago, "Hey, guess what? In 5 years, you're gonna see a WrestleMania where Stone Cold Steve Austin has a match, and so does Vince McMahon, plus like Wee Man's gonna power slam someone," I'm gonna be like, "Yeah, okay, you need to maybe call somebody because I think you might need a little bit of help."
You need some medication. Something is
Yeah,
wrong.
you need to make another appointment because you're starting to imagine weird things. Like, it's not going to happen. I could not believe it. I just never thought I'd see any of that again, but it was cool as hell.
Yeah, and I will say, as someone who has had a really rough 2022 specifically, I needed this. Like, thank you, WWE. I needed this. I think we all did. And then it doesn't just end. So when after Austin does the stunner, other than the stunner to Austin Theory, who sells for days, he does the stunner, tries to do the stunner to Vince, but Vince is a very old man.
Yeah.
and slippery at this point too from the beer. I did like that whole thing with the beer where he tries it and he likes it and whatnot. And man, they sold the shit out of Austin's beer. But
Yeah, they did. Just
yeah,
right there in the camera and
so many times. Yeah, Vince McMahon approved. And it looks like Vince is just slippery at points when Austin's trying to get him. Austin's laughing as he's trying to stun him.
yeah, Austin didn't even give a shit at that point. He just started laughing, walking circles.
Yep. And I mean, again, Vince is pushing 80. He did fine for that. And him also falling out of the ring, I was like, oh my God, he's gonna die. And you see him like fall fist first. Like,
Right.
oh, I was so worried. Like, I know we say sometimes about how like Vince McMahon needs to go to whatever. I don't want to watch him die in the ring or falling out of the ring. I don't want to see that.
I have a really bad feeling that's probably going to be how he goes. he's going to make sure it happens in the middle of that ring.
Yeah. But this
was fun.
Yeah, and it reminded me of how it made me love Vince McMahon a little bit. Like seeing all of that. Like or the Vince McMahon character, it reminded me of how much that's just fantastic. That whole thing. And Austin had to be so drunk by the end of that. And he stunned Pat McAfee, and then Pat McAfee's laying there still drinking a beer.
That is all over everything today. That's all I'm seeing are memes with McAfee, like laying still drinking it.
Yeah. Which, I mean, who hasn't been there before?
We were talking about Owens, how happy he must have been like to have a match with Austin. Think about McAfee too, who has said that all he has ever wanted. He's been such a big fan. And for him to actually be able to have a moment with like the character of, the Vince McMahon character, and have Austin come down and share a beer with Austin and celebrate with them, and then get stunned by Austin. Like,
yeah,
McAfee must have had the best night of his life last night. That
also,
must have been.
Yeah. And the other thing is, Austin Theory is so young. How is he's had the best night of his life.
Yeah.
Like, I got news for you, kid. It's only going down from here. It doesn't matter if he wins the title or anything else. Nothing's going to top this.
Yeah, they're all about moments. That was definitely a moment.
Oh yeah, it most certainly is. Olive, can you not? He wants attention, so now he's walking around the room just fucking with shit, as cats do. And since we're overtime, but we have to talk about real quickly, at least, the Roman versus Brock. I think it was very, and we had both said this, like, it ended abruptly. It must have, I thought, like, someone had to get hurt. And I know Roman was saying about his shoulder. I thought that was not like, I thought that was all part of everything. I thought it would have been Brock that got injured. Hi, Olive. No.
I always love when they put the ass right in your face like that.
Yeah. Here, Olive. He's a beautiful kitty, but he needs to not do this. So, yes, he's a beautiful cat, and he knows it. Yes. Oh, all of the evil. What was I saying? Roman Reigns, yeah. The match had a lot of great lead up, actually. They really made me invested in it. I don't think it paid off to the point where, and God damn it, Olive. I think it could have gone there if the injury didn't happen. It was Roman. Roman got injured, right?
Yeah, when he was yelling to Heyman that it's out, that was legit.
Yeah.
And I saw a picture someone posted later on in the night, and oh god, it was gross.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to see this match for the 987th time. I like Brock more now than I ever did, which I hate that I actually like Brock. It goes against everything that I fundamentally feel as a human being, because I've hated him since he's come back in like 2012. But I was hoping that it wouldn't have been the same match that we had seen so many times. And then it was.
Yeah.
It was spear and suplex and spear and Superman punch, and it was just a finisher fest until I don't know what would have happened if Roman didn't actually get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But it just, for them to be billing it as the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, and then to have it be the same exact match that they have had on other WrestleManias and other pay-per-views, just made me feel kind of let down. And
it felt
at
cheap.
the time, not knowing that like someone got hurt, it was like, what the hell was even that ending? Like, that was just like, boom, done.
Yeah.
It makes sense now, but at the time it was just, I wish that they would have done night one and we would have got Owens and Austin on night two, because it would have been much more of a high note to end WrestleMania weekend on.
Unfortunately, I think if they did that, we wouldn't have had the thing with Austin beforehand. So I see why they had Austin night one, but so what tipped me off to something went wrong was how abrupt that was, the ending. And the fact that they just cut, like, there wasn't, Austin was not Austin at the end of, Austin was in the ring for forever night one at the end. Like, there's so much film. Definitely drunk. That man got drunk 2 nights in a row off of his own beer. There was no like prolonged celebration or anything. They were just like, nope, done. And I looked at my watch and I went, they had time left. They would have given New Day longer had that been the plan. So I knew someone got hurt, but I thought it was, I kind of thought it was Brock, because when Roman was saying about his arm, I just assumed incorrectly that unfortunately Roman has become a pretty good actor, which is why I was just like, oh yes, this is part of the story. Wow.
I thought it was part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think like we'd be able to hear it, if he was like with him screaming, it's out. And
the fact that Heyman was like hyping him up, I think that's the other thing. Like, that he was like, my tribal chief, you can do it. Little did we know Heyman was like, you have to do something, like finish this.
Yeah.
I want my paycheck.
And that just also goes to show how great Paul Heyman is, that he was able to just on the spot put out like, my tribal chief for your family, my tribal chief. And like, you have to, he's fucking brilliant. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just, I know that we always dissolve into Paul Heyman love fest when we talk about Paul Heyman, so I'll try to hold back on it. But he was just, his facial expressions, his everything, like, he always is a huge part of whatever match he's involved in, just by being out there and hearing him and watching the reactions. And it wasn't a bad match. It wasn't a great match.
It wasn't a WrestleMania match.
No, and it was the same thing that we've seen and other WrestleManias, that it was the same match that we have seen get booed out of buildings and have beach balls, and it's just the roles were reversed, and we had a heel Lesnar and a face Roman.
Yeah. What I think they need, one, I don't think we ever need to, we never need to see this match at Mania ever again. What they should have done was, it shouldn't have been a straight wrestling match. It should have been like a fun stipulation. And you know, obviously I'm going to say Paul Heyman on a pole, Paul Heyman above the ring type thing, but it doesn't have to be that.
Make it a Hell in a Cell match. They're supposed to be like the end all be all, like end the grudge match of grudge matches. That's supposed to be what that is for, not like a gimmicky pay-per-view. Hell in a Cell is supposed to be to end a feud. Like that's got to the point where you're going in the cell. Make it something like that, or like no holds barred, or like a street fight, or do some kind of like stupid something that's different than the same thing that we have been seeing since what, 2016 now?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And I will say, had that match, had Roman not been injured and that was the way they decided to end this, I had said to Nam, I was just like, I think someone's hurt, but if not, Brock just passed the torch, because like the way he laid there, like this wouldn't have taken Brock out, that last spear. Like it would have been something more than that. I know that that thing with Goldberg, but I like to pretend that didn't happen. Yeah. So, which the other thing is that goddamn thing with Goldberg, they're saying that Goldberg's spear is, you know, more deadly than Roman then. Ugh. Oh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Agree.
I hate Goldberg. Hate
Not
him.
a fan.
We will talk about how much we love Bianca Belair and Montez Ford's love, how much we love Paul Heyman, and how much we hate Goldberg on most episodes.
And Bud, I'm sorry, Butch.
His name is Pete Dunne. I refuse.
Seriously, that had to have been what they were going to name Adam Cole. It had to have been. It's too much of a coincidence that they did the Budge joke, which first I think they did say Butch and then changed it to Budge. It's just too much of a coincidence that like everything they wanted to do to Cole is what's happening to poor Pete Dunne right now.
Somebody else, I guess, I forget who it was, but they said they wanted to use Butch for their name and they turned them down. So Vince has been hot on Butch for a while, which is a weird sentence to say. And apparently Pete Dunne was like, sure. And I will say Pete Dunne is talented enough, I think, to get over that hurdle, but not with the Scrappy Doo thing that they have going on. Like, let the man wrestle. And I know things got screwed up because of our poor sweet baby Big E getting injured and nearly murdered in front of us all. But like, he needs something. And I'm not upset that he's with Sheamus, and I'm not upset that he's with Ridge Holland, because him and Ridge Holland were together on NXT. Sheamus also, I mean, it's smart pairing new. Ridge is new, Pete Dunne is not, but pairing them with like a veteran like Sheamus makes sense to me. Get him out of that damn outfit and get the hat off of him, for the love of God. He had like that was the first thing Nam said to me. He's like, where the hell's his hair? And I was like, oh, it's still there. And he's like, where? And I was like, under the stupid hat. And he's like, does he still do the finger thing? And I was like, I don't know if he does the finger thing. He does, but I was like, he hasn't really wrestled a match on his own. Don't get me started.
Let me at him.
I'm like, oh my God. Ugh.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
We're going to see him bite someone. I swear it's going to happen. Although biting is fairly common on NXT, but anyway. Oh, I think you froze.
Really?
Yep, there you go. All right. But we're gonna wrap up now so we can watch the Raw after Mania, and yeah. Overall, overall, what would you rate WrestleMania? All the nights.
Give it a solid B plus because the highs were really high, but the lows were really low. Like
The lows, I thought nothing was worse than something you would see on Raw or SmackDown, right? Like you would see, because there have been moments at pay-per-views where you're just like, oh my God, like what is this? We saw stuff that wasn't WrestleMania worthy, but nothing that I was just like, this does not belong on television. Which there have been WrestleMania matches where, especially in recent years, where you're just like, oh, why are you doing this to us?
Dragging it down for me is like the Omos and Lashley, the New Day, the ending of the main event, and just the fact that we've seen that match so many times.
Yeah.
Like if they did a different match, if Roman and Brock had a different match, I'd probably bring it up to like an A. Like it would be like an A, but I can't go higher than a B plus if I'm grading it fairly, even though I really enjoyed it.
I would give it an A minus because the things that were high, like things were high enough for me to level out those things that were just like meh. Although again, I could have lived without ever seeing Logan Paul. Also, I realized Logan Paul looks like one of my ex-boyfriends, and I'm very upset about the whole thing.
I'm very sorry.
Yes. But that's a story for another time.
That's probably a private combo.
Yes. So as always, hustle, loyalty, and respect. Yabba-do.